Welcome, everybody, to the That Kind of Nerd podcast. I am CJ Mellon.
I am Brian Thornton.
And I am Josh Burns.
Welcome to our show. Episode 7 is titled Wibbly Wobbly Stuff. We talk about Harry Shearer leaving The Simpsons and the fate of his 25 characters. We talk about Doctor Who and Josh's article of Who for Beginners. We talk about why this show is so important to us and why you should be watching it. Finally, we round out with DC on TV. We talk about the spin-offs that are coming out of Flash and Arrow and CBS's Supergirl. The conversation gets very interesting, and we can't wait to hear your feedback. All right, so there's a couple of bits of news that came across the internet in like the last 48 hours. And I definitely want to get to a bunch of exciting things because we're going to talk a little bit about DC as well. But the first thing I kind of want to start off with is the news that happened out of the Simpsons. So Harry Shearer, who does about 25 voices on the Simpsons cast, just the main ones that he does are Montgomery Burns, not to be confused with Josh Burns, Ned Flanders, and Principal Skinner. I mean, just literally just a few of the main voices that are leaving the show. And it's one of those things where I was just like, I don't know how to take this because The Simpsons has had such a long run on TV. And I have mixed feelings about it because I'll be honest, I was not allowed to watch The Simpsons when I was a kid. My mom and dad did not like it in our house, so it was the show that I would sneak off to when I went to my friend's house and to start watching it that way. So I was kind of wondering if you guys had any relationship with The Simpsons that was like that or that was different, and how you kind of feel about this kind of news. Let's start with Josh.
I watched The Simpsons when it was still on Tracy Ullman because my dad liked the Tracy Ullman show.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I think I was 8 at that point. So, and then when it came out on Fox, I was maybe 9, and it was funny back then. And I remember not so much identifying with the characters, but appreciating the humor even back then. And as I got older, the humor got funnier and funnier and funnier. And then you look back on some of those old episodes and realize you didn't get what they were talking about. You just you just thought the fart jokes were funny.
It's one of those things that's kind of like South Park. You know, obviously South Park is an homage to The Simpsons at times. And it's one of those things where just like, I can see why my parents didn't want me to watch this, but I see a lot of cultural events happening within the show. Brian, right. I think you kind of had the same experience with me, right? You weren't watching The Simpsons when you were a teenager or anything like that, right?
No. I well, like you, I grew up in a house that really didn't watch The Simpsons or really want me to watch The Simpsons or anything like that. So I knew like I Caramba, I knew Heidi Ho, their neighbor, and that kind of stuff. But I never really got into the show until honestly recently when FX did their Every Simpsons Ever marathon.
Yeah,
I caught a couple hours of it there. I was like, oh wow, this is actually pretty funny and pretty enjoyable. For me, it was I would sneak over to my friend's house to watch South Park. So I never really got into Simpsons until recently. So
which is way worse, just way worse.
So it's one of those moments where, you know, I don't know how the other cast members feel, but we're going on 26 seasons? Have we had a show ever run this long before?
No. This is it.
And they just got renewed for 2 more. I just read.
Yeah, they're going for the 27th and 28th, right? And they're renegotiating salaries for it.
Something
and if I remember
like
correctly, he walked away from like $14 million to do this.
A lot of money. I mean, it's at the end of the day, though, you gotta admire the integrity of the decision. He didn't want to compromise, you know, the projects he wanted to work on, so he just chose to work on other projects. And you know, I'm sure there's other stuff when you're on a cast and you're with the same people for decades. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff, but they're not gonna take out those characters though. They're just gonna find other people who can do their voices.
Yeah,
and I think that's sad.
And that's the good part.
No, that's not good because it's never gonna be. They're not gonna be identical. They're gonna be an imitation. Someone impersonating Harry Shearer doing Smithers, and I don't want to hear that, right? I want to hear Smithers.
Well, I think you're going to get some people. I think they're going to take some characters away, and some of these characters that he does, they're bit parts. Like he does FBI agents, and he does the homeless guys, and he does people that welcome to the shop, Willie. So I mean, some of those characters they're going to go away. You're never going to notice. But like,
dude, you would notice Beardman not being there. I mean, he pops up, he pops up in weird scenarios, but that one line, it's always a good one.
It's always a good one. But I'm okay with this because I still feel like they want the show to go on. They still want it to have the same integrity. This is it. They're not admitting defeat, but in my eyes, this is a huge blow to the Simpsons franchise. And I know that they're negotiating for 2 more seasons, but the question is, how much longer can you go? 28 years. By the way, in television, that's freaking unheard of. I mean, there's some news programs that haven't been running 28 years. So, I mean, not only have the people just been bringing these are facts. Like, these are just facts that people are presenting. The Simpsons has laid groundwork for people's careers. Conan O'Brien, got his big break as a writer for The Simpsons. And there's so many people who have made cultural impacts due to this. The question is, do you think this show has much longer in it? Do you think viewers will come to listen to impersonations of these famous characters?
No, I think that the reason you have FX doing every Simpsons ever and still running Simpsons episodes is because it's winding down. They know that. And as someone who's loved the show, I haven't watched The Simpsons on its scheduled airtime in it's got to be 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. Even right now, Fox is doing new episodes, and just like Brian said, when the Simpsanity thing happened on FX and every Simpsons ever, that's where I really started to deep dive and get exposed to it. My wife has been watching The Simpsons for a long time, and even jokes that her dad and her brother literally had a Bart and Homer thing where my father-in-law would grab my brother-in-law by the throat. So I mean, it has some impact on people, and I'm wondering, what this says about other television series. Is this something that are we going to see people starting to notice it and start writing it into their own shows? Are we going to see things like South Park maybe examining how much longer they have left? Are we going to see other cartoon series go, well, shit, The Simpsons went for 30 years. We can't even get past season 7. Are they going to adjust themselves to kind of make their voice actors happy? Does that make sense? I may just ramble.
I think you're thinking a little too deep.
I think you're overthinking it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, in the world of television, you get 10 seasons, and that's a great run. It's unheard of to go as long as The Simpsons have. And from what I understand from some of the fans, it probably shouldn't have gone on this long as it is. It's starting to get stale. So, I mean, you'll probably get, like, South Park is really good at being able to remain topical. So I'm sure they'll have an episode that kind of nods to it or addresses it in some sort of way if, it ever does start to die. But at this point, it's just, I think it's continuing just for the novelty of continuing, just for the fact that, we have a show that's been on for 30 years. I think some of the creators may be getting burned out or want to go on to other projects, which is probably what he's doing here, which is great.
So my thought came back into my head and rationalized itself this time and fully went out. So now I think I have a better thesis, or at least a hypothesis for it. There's the old adage, and South Park even literally called it out. Simpsons did it. Simpsons did it. There's so many times you're watching a television series or a television show, and you're just like, "That's a Simpsons episode." That's a Simpsons. Oh,
yeah,
Simpsons
but it's more than that. It's become cultural satire.
Right. No, but my question is now: if this is the sign of the end of The Simpsons, are we going to see people forgetting the fact that this was already done before, and we're going to see people hashing ideas that The Simpsons done and get away with it?
No.
You no.
I mean, just look at it this way. I mean, Seinfeld has been off the air for how long now? 10,
and you still
years?
Can't say, what is the deal with airplanes?
And anytime anybody goes, well, not that there's anything wrong with that. They do that little hand motion. Right. It's so impactful.
That's so true.
Like I literally still do the hand motion when I go, well, not that there's anything wrong with that. Like
he did that at work.
I did it at work the other day with you. And I just do it subconsciously. So I don't think you're going to hear anybody like start to try and rehash old Simpsons jokes. If anything, it'll be an homage to what the Simpsons have done. It's a huge show. It's impacted television forever. It's never going to fully die that way.
So let's say The Simpsons does bite the dust, and they're in negotiations for these next 2 seasons. Let's just say we only get one more. So this is a 2-part question. How would you like to see the show go out? And then what do you think fills that vacuum in there? Or do you think anything can fill the vacuum that The Simpsons will leave?
I think that The Simpsons ending will start the end of the animation craze. We've already lost Futurama. Nobody watches Family Guy. South Park sucks. There's just no... I don't think you get anything as honest or as funny or as upfront or as... took events and was able to spin them and shape them. And I mean, there's books written on how the Simpsons uses religion, and there's...
Oh my God, that book, by the way, The Simpsons Bible... Right. That's actually a really good book.
Yeah.
Because it was one of the counters I had to my parents on watching it, because there literally is a prayer in every Simpsons episode, even if it's, "Dear God, please let me get one channel." Counts.
right, counts, yeah.
It counts.
Count it, chalk it up. Yeah, I don't think you see... I don't think that you see anything that can fill the void. I think that it leaves a massive hole, but that animation is on its way out anyway, at least in this comic show type way.
So Brian, you too on this part. How do you want to see The Simpsons go out, and what do you think will fill the void, or is this going to just put a black eye on programs that are similar to this?
I mean, I think the creator and the crew of Simpsons have proven that they can do a season finale, a series finale fantastically well. I mean, they wrapped up Futurama extremely well, so I really don't have any hopes or dreams on how we see Homer and the gang kind of end. I'm sure they'll do it fantastically. It's just I don't think this. I mean, I can definitely see Josh's point. I mean, Simpsons is what started this whole animation craze, the adult animation comedy craze, and it could also spell the end for it. I don't think anybody should try to fill that void. I think it's a void that's unfillable. I think if they do anything, they need to go completely out of left field and do something completely different and try and see if it's successful. And if it's not, then it's not.
So that kind of leads me to the next point. Is are we worried about The Simpsons jumping the shark at the series finale? Like, are you worried? Like, they've done everything. And they've pioneered so many things. How do you end a series that?
I read a theory somewhere, and I can't remember where it is, so sorry for, the lack of attribution. But I read something about this entire series has been in Homer's mind. And there was an episode very early where he ends up falling or something and ends up in the hospital. And they're talking about, he could have been brain dead. And that actually everything that happened after that was sort of so off the deep end, so fantastical that it, could it be? Maybe. And that it stays current because there's the TV on in his room and there's family and friends talking about current events. And that's why that's why there's all the same characters all the time. That's why the children haven't aged.
That's interesting. I definitely would be okay with that.
Would you? It's all a dream? I mean, How many times has that backfired for so many other series? Do you think The Simpsons is the one that can get away with it?
This isn't Dallas. This is The Simpsons. It's different.
Yes.
It's an animated show. It's not like we're trying to find out who shot JR. We enjoyed the show for
No, we're trying to figure out who shot Monty Burns, and it turns out that it was a baby. And if any of you write in, "Oh, spoilers," how dare you? Just how dare you? Okay, so, but I mean, at that point, do you think that, so this is the question I'm getting to. Do you think The Simpsons could do a jump the shark, holy crap, I can't believe they did that finale, and everyone goes, okay, yeah, that's a good end.
Like, you mean like I can't even do it. I can't even spoil it. Sorry, you just started watching The Sopranos, and I can't spoil it.
Yeah, thank you.
Listen.
Okay, do you want to take the minute to address the fact that I just started watching The Sopranos?
If I didn't mention it, I would receive some sort of verbal chastising from my wife.
Okay, well,
for
here
all
comes
those out there.
Well, here comes the addition to the verbal chastising. I've never watched The Sopranos.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I am saved.
I watched maybe about the first half of the first season when I worked at video store that is no longer with us. Rest in peace. And I just
that thing was a piece of scum, and I'm glad it's dead.
Whoa,
man!
Whoa!
Listen, okay.
With all your late fees, how the hell did Blockbuster go out of business with having $900 in late fees?
The Sopranos started this whole hour-long series craze. It started it.
So here's the answer as to why I haven't watched The Sopranos until now. It started in 1999.
I know.
I was in 7th grade.
I was working full-time.
That show was not part of my. I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons. How the hell was I going to get away with The Sopranos?
Man, that's really cool. It's legit. It's fine.
We've actually really digressed. We're gonna come back to this on another podcast, but
I apologize.
No, it's my fault. It's my fault for bringing it up. My fault.
So anyway, it comes down to this. I think this is a sign for The Simpsons that things are winding down, just like you said, Josh. I believe that having an actor of this caliber doing this big of a role is devastating to the cast, but I think that they're going to try to still put on the best show possible to give their viewers who have stuck with them for so long a good farewell. And I'm okay with how they're going to do it. I know you're not happy with the fact that they're going to recast some of these characters. John.
I almost wish he owned the rights to the characters.
But you know what? You need to say goodbye to some of these characters, and with this notice, I don't think you're going to get a goodbye. I don't think they could literally write in a goodbye to some of these characters, especially with the amount that he does. So you're going to get some satisfying they're gone. And maybe they'll do it slowly. Maybe the people that are taking over these characters get it for a few episodes and then they're gone. And they get to say, hey, I was on The Simpsons. And that's another career that could be started by the Simpsons. It's just another person. You know, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have a slew of people that are working in Hollywood. Writers, producers, directors, actors. Even some of the people that did guest appearance that weren't exactly culturally relevant once they got on The Simpsons got a big jump. So I think we'll be happy with that. And I think we'll be okay. And I think that The Simpsons is in good hands and they know how to end something. Just like Brian said, they knew how to wrap up Futurama correctly. Let's put faith in them that they can wrap up The Simpsons right.
Indeed.
So my thoughts on that. So I want to jump to the next subject here. Josh wrote an amazing article for Doctor Who for Beginners. And for the scope of people here, I put this as one of our best articles on the website,
Thanks,
Josh,
man.
right next to the Daredevil 101 from Brian, which I have read several times. Seriously, I've read both of your articles a lot, and I freaking write on the site. So that should say something that I will continuously visit thatkindofnerd.com just to read an article that I've already read. Josh, you kind of laid down, I think, the best spoiler-free way to kind of convince somebody to start watching Doctor Who. And you had the 10 commandments, right? The commandments of Doctor Who. Can you just kind of rehash those a bit for us and kind of walk us through what those are and your thoughts behind some of them?
Yeah, I don't, you know, what's funny is that I don't know how this is possible, but I don't have my own article ready to go. The thing is, I started thinking of how am I going to do this and what do I really need to convey, right? And what I didn't want to do was make it something that only certain people would understand. I wanted it to read like I've seen the whole thing, which I have. I wanted people who have seen the entire series to read it and say, yeah, that's cool. That's a good idea. But I wanted it to define a few things. I wanted to explain who the Doctor is. I wanted to explain who his companion is or are. And then in the commandments, I wanted to give some broad strokes. The Doctor is old, where we know that, but you don't know how old until you start watching it. But within the first few episodes, you hear that he's 900 years old at that time. Why he has a companion. And then I build in little things, sort of based on conversations that you and I had, CJ, when Chris Eccleston regenerated and became David Tennant, and I was angry about it.
Yes, you were very angry.
I was angry about it, and you just said, listen, it's just keep watching. I promise it'll be okay. So I did, and, you know, sooner or later we got through Pouty McPissy Pants, and we got into Matt Smith, and then everything was okay again.
Whoa. One does not get to talk about David Tennant in that manner.
Okay. And I use some humor from the show, obviously. It's in there. And again, just as a guiding, you're going to have favorite characters. You're going to have characters that you absolutely despise. See, you can't say Martha Jones to CJ without CJ
God,
throwing something at you.
Just don't. That's awful. Why would you do that? So let me give some context. So I had the thought here. Doctor Who, for American audiences, that is kind of like a geeky pay it forward. Someone comes to you and says, hey, you need to watch this show. It's called Doctor Who. I think you'd really like it. And then you go, I don't understand who the Doctor Who is. And you're like, no. It's not who is Doctor Who. It's the Doctor. And you're like, this is a stupid rule. There's rules already. Like, you're just telling me about the title. There's rules. I'm out. And someone has to go, no. But trust me, it's worth it. So I went to Josh and I said, listen, you need to watch Doctor Who. I think you'll absolutely love it. And he was like, no, not going to do it. And I was like, but no, you should really watch it. And he was like, you should watch Sons of Anarchy. I was like, no, I don't think I'll watch Sons of Anarchy. I'll pass on the Sons of Anarchy. And then we made a deal. And what was hilarious was the scale of this deal. At the time, Sons of Anarchy was still a current show. It was still airing. It hadn't wrapped. And he said, you have to watch all of it. You have to watch all of Sons of Anarchy, and I will watch one season of Doctor Who. So the ratio on this, by the way,
You drew the short straw.
just a little too high. But I was okay because I knew that once you get into this show, once you get in there, you're hooked. So a little bit of context for everybody. This show is old. It's been on for over 50 years, but it's been broken up in bits and chains. So we just talked about a show like running 38 seasons or 28 seasons. And, we're talking about Doctor Who 50, but it's not 50 continuous.
63 to 89 was it was broken up, but that was the tenure basically. And when they brought it back in 2005 with series 1 of Doctor Who and Chris Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor, it was campy and it was hard to watch, and you push through that. And I'll say this: there are a few shows that can trigger a range of emotions like that, and there's every character has a theme. Each Doctor has a different theme sort of song. Pardon me, and not the entrance music, not the opening whatever, but they each have this. When they're about to get serious, when something's about to get awesome, you hear this theme.
Yeah.
If you go to thatkindofnerd.com and you read this article, when the article opens, you hear the theme of the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, who I will just, he's my doctor. He's the one that I identify with.
And that's another feature of this. This show, since we're talking about spanning such a time, it's a staple in the BBC catalog. And it came over here to PBS in about the 60s, 70s, and people started to get exposed to it at later runs, essentially. And everybody has a doctor. So there is one character. The name of the character is the Doctor, but there are different actors who play him throughout time. And you will find yourself at one point dramatically, emotionally attached to a person. And as Josh said in his article, don't worry if that person changes, because you'll always have your doctor with you, and you'll see the influences of your doctor throughout all the others. So I was a huge fan of David Tennant, and that's what made me stick into the Doctor. And I identify with him as my doctor. I don't know if he's my favorite one, but he's the one that I will always defend no matter what.
You do defend him no matter what.
No matter what, I will defend David Tennant's Doctor. And you'll find yourself very, very ready to go. Now, Brian, I think I also got you into Doctor Who too, part of my pay it forward technique.
Yes, you did.
And I don't think it was as reluctant as Josh was, because did I have Josh to back me up on this?
You had Josh to back you up. So I remember you coming up to me. We were talking about something, and I forget how it got brought up. You're like, oh, you should really watch Doctor Who. And I'm like, I like to start things from the beginning, so I'm not going to watch. I'm not going to watch like 30 years of a show just to get to what you say is good. I just don't want to watch that. And I think it was Josh who was just like, no, dude, just start at series 2, 2005 going forward. Just start there. And I'm like, I don't know. At that point, the only exposure I had to Doctor Who, I think I caught half of an episode on BBC while I was like getting ready for school one morning. I forget what the name of the episode is. It was with the kid that's like, "Are you my mommy?" And that was a great episode.
Great episode. The doctor dances. Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
So
and
good.
It was enough to intrigue me. So you guys were talking about it. It was enough to make me think, well, maybe I should go back and watch it. So I did, and I cleaned through 6 seasons, and because the 7th season was still airing, I cleaned through 6.5 seasons inside of a month, maybe, and I'm rewatching it now. So, I've always been a huge fan of Tennant, honestly. He was usually the one I would defend, and I remember defending him to Josh a couple times. But I'm rewatching it now, and I just got back into the Matt Smith run, and I was like, I really like Matt Smith.
Yeah, you can't not love Matt Smith. I don't see any alternative, and I think I can't drive this point home any more clearly than I do when what I said in the article. I do believe that you're gonna laugh a lot. I know you'll cry. I did, and
absolutely.
It's rough. There's some stuff in there, man, that you can't help but get emotional about, and you're gonna be angry. I was angry several times.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, absolutely. I still can't. I can't watch Capaldi. I can't do it.
It's Capaldi, first of all.
Whatever, dude. I can't. Well, I can't. He's not my doctor, and
you have to watch him.
I've made this transition now 3 times, and each time it got a little easier, but then Matt Smith was gone, and it's not just Matt Smith, right? It's
a very different run now.
It's the Pawns and it's everything changed too quickly, and I'm just not there yet. I can't do it. I'm not there. I'm not ready. I can't put myself back out there only to get hurt again, CJ.
So, are there other shows, Josh, that you have this much of an attachment and this much of an opinion to in watching in such a short time? How many seasons are actually available from the reboot? 7? 7 seasons?
Yeah. Well, and then you got your specials, Day of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor and everything. Yep. But it's like about 7 seasons.
Yeah, it's 7 seasons.
All of them are on Netflix.
Everything from 9th, 10th, 11th, and everything that happens in between.
And if we're talking about a show you can binge watch, this is a show you just get lost in. And a lot of people's like adversity, I find, is like, oh, I'm not really into the sci-fi stuff. And it's really it's a morality tale kind of wrapped in a sci-fi wrapping. It's fantastic. Yes. It's more character driven. It's one of the most character driven shows I've ever seen.
It is incredibly character driven. It's not, story just to have a story. Everything is, short story arcs, usually just 1 to 2 episode story arcs until you get to the 11th Doctor, which it's 2 seasons of a story arc. And it's fantastic. So I can't. You have to watch the show. You have to watch it, and you got to jump in.
It's great, and I'll preface this too. We talk about a lot of really nerdy things on this show, and we get pretty nerd ragey about weird, crazy things. The community around Doctor Who, which, by the way, if you do start to fall in love with Doctor Who, you are called a Whovian, is extremely strong, welcoming, and doesn't judge you if you didn't watch the stuff from the 60s and the 70s and even before that. Some of it's even actually hard to find. You can't get some of the older Doctor stuff in there. I jumped into the 4th Doctor right now. I'm really enjoying it, but it's a little 70s sci-fi, and you kind of have to go for it. It's a British television show, in case we needed to make that obvious. So there are some terms that sometimes you catch yourself going, wait, what the heck? What's a jammy dodger? And why the heck does that have any relevance to anything? And the answer is Google it and then laugh your ass off once you figure it all out. This show has also launched a couple of actors and actresses that you will now know. And once you see David Tennant in the role of the Doctor, you will now notice that he is in everything. Like, I don't know how many crossovers with Doctor Who to Harry Potter there are.
He's in the 4th Harry Potter.
He's in the 4th Harry Potter.
Well, he's actually the Doctor trying to stop Edward from happening in Twilight.
Barty Crouch Jr.
Yes, didn't you read that theory? He is the doctor who came back in time to try and kill Cedric Diggory, so Twilight never happens.
Yeah, sure,
sparkling
fine.
vampire shit.
Josh had a great rule for it, and it's a quote from the show. And things are going to get wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Things are going to look a little weird and crossish. And I want to do this. I want to see your recommendation, guys, that you would recommend to someone who is new to Who, and what they should start with. My first pick is you should watch the episode Blink with David Tennant. It is a great way to get into the series. It's probably one of the best written episodes of the early seasons by Stephen Moffat, and it's a phenomenal way to just jump into things and start realizing that time is kind of wibbly wobbly.
How do you just jump into Blink without ever watching Rose? Like,
that's
how do
the
you?
Best, but that's the best part about that episode, because it's the episode that I've used to introduce a couple people to it. The doctor is barely in it. It's not about him. It's about what's her name, Cindy Sparrow. And it follows her throughout the entire episode, but the story is still so engaging. And like the few scenes that the doctor is in, you immediately like connect with him, that you want to go back and watch more.
The reason that is a great way to jump into it, Josh, is because you get a fresh perspective of, you have no idea who this man is at all.
I have a different answer, and it's the 11th hour.
Wow. You want to jump there to start?
If you want to know who the doctor is, yeah. There's one scene on the roof where he gets rid of these aliens, right? He chases them away. And then he calls them back. Back. Just to say, listen, you need to look closely at this planet you were just trying to, Earth, this planet you were just about to burn, and just check who's watching out for it. And what you see is the face of every doctor that preceded him.
Yes.
And he ends the conversation with, "Hello, I'm the doctor." Basically, run.
That's a great episode. In fact, since CJ said Blink, that's my backup episode. And I literally just watched it. Literally just watched it today. Because he's got that great line in it, and he's got a great line at the end where he goes to Amy Pond. He's just like, "There's one thing you need to remember, and one day it might even save your life. I am absolutely a madman with a time box," and then walks away.
And this show, just like Josh said, it's so well written. It's so well acted. You will see famous people that making cameos in this show, or even getting their start in the show. I believe Simon Pegg's in an episode. I mean, I could list everybody.
Yeah. Well, you just talked about Blink, and Carrie, whatever her name is in that.
I don't remember her name.
Heath Ledger's baby mama.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't read Us Weekly like.
But John Barrowman, who's currently on Arrow, got to start there.
Yes. I have a theory that these two shows are going to tie into. Never mind.
It's a stupid.
I'm just
theory.
saying. Listen, we don't know what happens. We don't know what happens between Ra's al Ghul and the face of Bo. So I'm just saying. No one knows.
Here's the thing. Like after just the end of it and wrapping up the Who for beginners, I want Who fans to read the article. I'm prouder, and thank you for what you said, CJ. But I am prouder of this article than anything I've written in some years, and it took a lot. Like it took a lot of rethinking and redoing things, and should this be here? What should I take out? But at the end, I think it's a good product, and I think everyone should read it, watch the show. And here's something that tonight, and we're going to talk about this, so I'm just going to introduce the next topic. We're about to talk about some DC on TV, and there was a trailer for Legends of Tomorrow, in which halfway through the trailer, you're introduced to a character. And Laura is watching the trailer. She goes, "It's Rory! It's Rory!" And then she goes, "Wait, and he's a Time Lord? And he's wearing a long coat." So there's your crossover, by the way. He's wearing a long coat, and he's a Time Lord.
Right. We don't know what the angels did with him.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
We never. Okay.
Okay. Anyway,
let's listen. We're transitioning. If you didn't hear that, Brian,
I did, and I'm
into
excited.
the section that CJ is going to try so hard not to take a shit on DC. It's called DC on TV.
Well, listen, out of everything that DC's doing, this is the one thing that you don't have to shit
Right,
on.
so why the fuck can they not get their shit together and make their movies as good as their television shows? I'm done. Someone else lead this conversation.
Brian.
So as Josh mentioned, last night / this morning, we just got a glimpse of the new spin-off series coming out of both Arrow and Flash, DC Legends of Tomorrow. And it's pretty much, they are a team of time-traveling superheroes, essentially, led by Rip Hunter, who is played by Rory. Rip Hunter, who is
Arthur Darvill.
Arthur
Yes,
Darvill.
can we use his real name?
I'm sorry, he's always Rory to me.
Yeah, he's always Rory to me.
He's
Too.
always Rory. Arthur Darvill plays Rip Hunter, who is a time lord. He's a time master. And
I actually have to stop you at this point to say that when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, I said, Amy Pond, no.
I saw David Tennant as Hamlet before I even saw him as the
Fair
Doctor.
enough.
So if you really want to go for weird,
Brian,
things,
can you
that's
give me just? I don't know the Legends of Tomorrow. I don't understand this at all.
so really, the concept of the show, this is kind of a new concept. Well, not new. It's taking a concept from DC comic books, where Rip Hunter and a couple of people that he enlists time travel to stop things that are going wrong, things that are kind of fraying in the time stream that aren't supposed to happen one way. They go back and they repair that kind of stuff.
They're
and-
fixing cracks in time.
Yeah, essentially.
Just checking.
Because
I'm just
there are
checking.
other time traveling villains. Yes, another Doctor Who reference. There are time traveling villains who would love to go back in time and, smother Bruce Wayne when he was a kid or something like that. And these are the guys who jump through time.
Can we
fixing
smother
that
the
kind
show
of stuff.
Gotham? Can we just smother that out
I
of
wish.
existence? Is that a
man.
possibility?
I wish we could. While CJ takes another shit on DC, yes. Out of the entire
We're going to count them. We're going to make a little tally every time I take a shit on DC in this episode.
out of the entire DC television universe, Gotham is probably the worst part of it ever. But that's a topic for another. Another
I think
time.
that remains to be determined on our second television show we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Well,
So let's finish this one up. So listen,
Let's finish this. Yeah.
we're taking two television series on the CW that have been phenomenal successes, which I think are right now the leading force with DC's plan of just being on any screen, regardless of size. And we're taking some of the characters that we've met and some new characters that we haven't met, and we're making a new show. And my question is, with every spinoff that we ever seen, is this going to be okay? We've already spun off Arrow into Flash, and now we're splitting off these two shows into a new one. Are we pushing for too much? Like, do we see this succeeding?
Absolutely. I mean, I think DC has really kind of pushed the boundaries of what's believable with Flash. Like, Arrow is so grounded in reality and just like, oh, I can see somebody grabbing a green hood and jumping off of rooftops. But then on Flash, we got a little bit more fantastical and a little bit more superhero-y, and we kind of pushed the boundaries of what was believable there to the point where I think a show about time-traveling superheroes is totally going to work, especially since we already have people who we've introduced in the other shows that we like. We like Ray Palmer. He's awesome.
Yes, we do.
We like White Canary and Sarah, and
I disagree on that, but
I
that's
like
okay.
Sarah. And that's all that matters because
I like Sarah Lance. I like Sarah Lance as well.
I can't get past that actress.
No, and it's not
Her and her butt chin.
White Canary. I'm done with a deceased assassin. No. See, deceased means
deceased.
I don't think you're using that word right.
That word does not mean what I
Right.
think
So
you think it means.
here's the only thing I'm excited about is actually Wentworth Miller and Dominic Purcell as Captain Cold and Heatwave. I like the pair. Going back to Prison Break.
I was going to say Prison Break.
Yeah,
reunion
I
again.
really like the pairing there, and I love basically everything Arthur Darvill does. So I think the way this show goes is really going to be about about Rip Hunter, about that character.
Yeah.
But I think overarching, I think this is a huge mistake.
I'm going to disagree with you there.
So
Yeah.
let me get us some context for our listeners here, because we dove into this and I want to direct you to something. So take a minute, pause this if you have to. Go to thatkindofnerd.com and you'll see the trailer. It's about a 4 or 5 minute
long,
trailer.
yeah.
It's actually It's pretty long, but it gives you a good sense of what the show is going to be about. It's not a teaser. They're trying to sell you this show. And listen, there's moments where you're like, yay, and moments like stupid, and moments like, yay, and it's a roller coaster. And I think that's where some of my trepidation comes in as well, Josh, is that this show, even in selling it to me, has some dips and waves in that section. How long can we sustain a spinoff of we have to travel and stop something to the point you're just like, why don't we just go back to the first time we made, all right, never mind. I was going to do a time traveler's paradox. Can't do it. But why don't we just do something that to stop this from ever happening?
So here's what excites me about this show, and I'm going to go on, and it's really from a comic book perspective because I see so much potential for some really cool things to happen, and this is where this is the springboard that we can kind of use to spin out other characters. Like we can travel back in time and meet Bruce Wayne when he's a kid and not in Gotham, and we can.
Can we though?
Well, probably not. I wouldn't recommend it. Here's the thing. They've been really good about taking, for lack of a better term, B-list characters and making them really cool. Green Arrow is a B-list character, and that show's fantastic. But there's a whole DC universe of these type of characters that just will never see the light of day on a movie screen, but will work perfectly in this kind of venue. And I really hope that they take this opportunity to kind of explore some of that and maybe throw in a character here or there that maybe we can make their own show of, or maybe it's just be cool to see them. I agree.
I just think that at some point, too many B-list characters just becomes mystery men. You know what I mean?
And here's the one thing, and you guys won't know what I'm talking about, but anybody who's read a comic book will. In one of the recent episodes of Flash, Reverse Flash is talking to Eddie Thawne, his ancestor, and makes a point of telling him that he is the only Thawne who has been forgotten by time. And at first I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then hearing what the concept of the show is about and reading some stuff online, the ongoing theory is that Eddie Thawne might turn into Booster Gold, who for people who don't know,
I know who Booster Gold is. He's all
okay. So he's from the future. He's from the future. He's a washed up football star,
right,
who goes into some museum, steals a bunch of time travel equipment, steals a superhero outfit, and says, you know what, I'm going to be awesome in the past because I already know everything that's going to happen. He's constantly looked down on as this glory hog who's only in it to, get what's in it for him.
Because he talks about himself in the third person all the time.
Right. And in the comic book, Rip Hunter kind of grabs him and says, guess what? You're going to help me repair the time stream type of thing. And that's his moniker, is that he's the world's greatest superhero that no one's ever heard of because he's saved so many people and he saved the world over and over again. But because he's time traveling, no one sees him. No one knows what's happening. He is having a huge influence on the DC universe. And I think it would be amazing if they spun Eddie Thawne's character into that character.
That is a concept I could be behind.
I think you'll see it.
It's the thankless man behind the scenes making things
right.
correct.
But that's the concept. It's just a team making things correct. And I think by the end or mid of this season, I think you're going to see Eddie disappear from Flash because he has nothing left to live for. Honestly, he's going to lose Iris. He knows that his descendant becomes a horrible human being, and he's going to join this time traveling squad and lead it. Just
seems like it's like a crappy squad. And then why don't they just erase Ra's al Ghul from everything ever, and that fixes pretty much everything?
It's time locked.
You're time locked.
I was going to say, I was just about to remember when I said other should go back, and then as a parent, the whole reason you want to go back in time is to stop something from happening.
Same reason why the doctor can't stop Pompeii. That's just the way it is.
Or in the Big Bang Theory, where Leonard is sitting in the time machine and Sheldon's like, "Are you okay?" He says, "No, but I wish we could go back and not have this conversation." And Sheldon's like, "Well, classic time dilemma. If you go back to stop this conversation, it was the whole reason you went back in time, and you can't do it."
Yeah, your motivation for stopping the conversation is over.
Congratulations, you can't time travel anymore. Right? Shake your head all you want. That just made sense.
Yes, it did. Made sense.
Yeah, you can't use Terminator or Back to the Future logic on this stuff.
I will listen. Unlike many projects with DC, I'm willing to give this one a shot because I trust the CW to do something with it, and I trust it to happen. And I like some of these characters, and I'm going to ignore the fact that the man who was playing the Atom was at one point Superman. I will get over that as much as I possibly can.
He's a great actor regardless of Superman Returns.
I don't know about great.
I mean, dude,
he
I would say
is
he's
an
a-
actor.
Thank you.
have not
Yes.
seen Chuck, and you probably haven't seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which are two of his greatest roles ever.
I saw Zach and Miri make a porno.
He kind of peaked in those
Right.
two
Oh,
shows.
yeah. Okay. I can't
Sorry.
wait until we watch the show and you're like, oh my gosh, I really like the Atom. And I'm going to be like,
Listen,
and I'm
I
going to
really
mic
want him
drop.
to save.
Boom.
I want him to have a career again. I thought he was good in Superman
He was.
Returns. I thought Superman Returns blew, but I thought he was good. And yeah, I absolutely loved / wanted to punch him in the genitals in Chuck. So I was okay with that. But I'll tell you something I'm not okay with. Supergirl. The trailer for Supergirl came out
Which
from
is like
CBS.
6.5
The good
minutes
folks. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. The good folks of CBS who brought us The Big Bang Theory, one of the greatest comedies, has turned Supergirl into The Devil Wears Prada and she flies.
That's the point.
I'm so. Okay, so you have to help me.
I'm going to. I'll feed you, baby. Don't worry.
I don't understand this Supergirl character because this seems like you took everything I hated from Scrubs, the last season that doesn't exist on Netflix, and you put superpowers on it. Defend yourself. I dare you.
Listen, superheroes in general and the superhero genre and these shows are very teenage boy, older, middle-aged men driven. I think giving Supergirl is a strong female character who's extremely interesting. And as long as they do this kind of crossover between Devil Wears Prada meets Capes and balance it out well, I think it's going to be highly entertaining. I think they're just trying to reach an audience that they haven't reached before.
But listen, let me put in my 2 cents. As the father of a 5-year-old girl who is incredibly strong and incredibly sassy and so smart and wonderful, I think it's important that, to your point, CJ, that there are strong female characters
Right.
out there, just as I get so fired up about every commercial on American media portraying the father figure as an idiot. You know, Homer Simpson
Right.
is an idiot.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm not that guy. So I want Zoe to have strong female figures to look at. And Brian is right. Supergirl is a strong female figure. This show is not making her a strong Here's something very interesting. Brian, you put me onto Max Landis's YouTube channel about some wrestling thing. It's amazing, right?
It's fantastic.
But he did a segment called Regarding Clark, where he talked about Superman, and I referenced that because I wanted to know more about the power itself, right? Because the Superman power isn't really it's Kryptonian. That's what he is, right? That's how he gets it.
Yeah.
So is she. Now, what Max Landis said is that instead of absolute power corrupting absolutely, in this case, in Superman's case, and in this case of Supergirl, absolute power absolves Superman of human insecurity. And here's the problem with Supergirl. She is, for whatever reason, a ball of human insecurity and doesn't ever... She's a superhero who's telling everyone she's a superhero because she wants the attention and the validation. And I don't ever want my daughter to feel that way, ever.
I think the trailer may have portrayed that. I don't know if the series is going to. I would say at least
But
watch
that's
the
how
pilot.
you're starting it, and you're starting it with that. That's how you presented it to the audience at the first time, the first glimpse of this show, and that's the impression that we're giving to people. And so let me backtrack for a quick second, because I want to see if this is CBS changing canon, or is this canon? Is Supergirl this not neurotic? What's the word I'm looking for?
Insecure.
Is she insecure?
Is she this insecure?
In the comic books, you're asking me?
Yes. Is this canon? Are they augmenting the character to fit a demographic that they wanted to hit, or is this how she's always been portrayed?
Well, in the comic book, there's like 3 different versions of Supergirl. One in the 80s who was actually an alien, and then they reintroduced her recently. And I mean, she's not super insecure, but she is struggling to fit in to, just like Superman is struggling to fit in.
Just like Kal-El. That's not insecure. That I get you want to change the demographic. I see where you're going, CJ. It's the thing I thought too. We need, and Laura said the same thing. They need more girls to watch superhero. Look, that's not the way I want my daughter to see it. That regardless of how powerful you are, you always care about what everybody else thinks and how you look and how you. No. This is not worthy of Superman.
And that's the thing I had on this too. And Josh and I, unfortunately for our listeners, we have a slight part in our heart where we're wrestling with this because we both have daughters, and I'm becoming acutely aware
no
of
such
what
attachments.
I feel so sad for Brian.
I'm so free. Dobby is free now.
Brian's a woman.
Harry
in
Potter
heart?
reference. You're welcome, Josh.
Ladies, Brian is available for evenings and weekends
and long walks on the beach.
And if you don't mind combing through some comics and alphabetizing them, he's a wonderful man to have hobbies with.
10,000. I alphabetize them myself, sir. I take care of that.
I organize all my records autobiographically.
No, we were doing so well. We were going so highbrow. We were elevating the conversation.
We
pour ourselves down. Why are we unhappy with ourselves being serious?
Can't do it. I can't be serious for too long. I'm sorry.
God. Okay, so can I get an answer on that question? Is this canon? Is this the character that you've seen in? Listen, and there's several iterations of this, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Are these traits?
Your answer
this level of insecurity in there
is to a degree. She's not an attention hog in the comic book. No way. She's insecure about her place on Earth, but she's not like seeking attention. If anything, she's seeking her cousin's approval most of all, and that's it.
Dude, she comes across like Lindsay Lohan in the beginning of Mean Girls.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, but I mean,
and I'm not even kidding. The season of Scrubs that I dare not mention. That is that character.
Intern,
I mean, that literally is that character.
What season of Scrubs you speak of? This does not exist. 8 seasons. That's it.
So listen, I'm not the only one taking a shit on DC when it comes to this show, which I'm glad to see.
It's not about DC for me. It's not about that. For me, I think it's about CBS. I think
DC had to say yes. You have the rights to this character.
You know why they said yes? Because it's not the CW calling. It's CBS. So of course they had to say yes. But this is not a show I would want my daughter to watch.
No, I'm not into it right now. So my question is, if we can have our fans, if we can have our listeners, if we can have our own ideas as to how you would save this show, what do you do differently? What do you do in that pilot to change it? By the way, who else is in this cast? Because they did mention the fact that they call her Supergirl because she comes into the office
Callista
of the
Flockhart. Is her boss?
Callista Flockhart. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Who at this point is, I think, what's the surrogate bodies that Bruce Willis and his partner were piloting. She's one of those. I don't think there's a whole lot of natural I don't think she's human anymore. I think she's been worked over to the point where.
Oh, you mean actually her? You don't mean her character?
Yeah.
You mean her? Yeah. No. If she was outside in the sun for too long, she would definitely start droopy and melty.
Look, it's to save this show. What do? Stop underestimating the strength of the female teenagers or the female in this country. Stop underestimating what they're capable of and stop thinking that every one of them is a ball of nerves. You know what? Because everybody is at some point, but I think you got the wrong jump off.
I want to address one thing. She walks into Supergirl, walks into Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada's office, and it was like, you can't call her Supergirl. Why not Superwoman? And Callista Flockhart does that. Well, I'm a girl speech, and girl's not as bad as a word. And they're trying to defend the title. But we watched Arrow start off as a show called Arrow. And when you started it, he was just Oliver Queen. Then it was the Hood. And then it was the Vigilante. And then he was Arrow. And now he's going to turn into the Green Arrow. You can not name the show, not name the character, the name that you just synonymously pick right away, and show growth. And maybe if you still want to make her a little neurotic or a little insecure, you could do that. But you're starting off on the wrong foot, in my opinion, and you're putting the wrong perception out to people.
But she's not neurotic.
Because
She's since her entire life,
neurotic's the wrong word. You're absolutely right.
For her entire life, she's been better at everything than everyone else around her. So at most, she is hiding who she is, but that should make her insecure. It should make her superior. And going back to Max Landis, if you are a Kryptonian on Earth, you have two options: save the weaker humans or take over the planet.
Yeah, it's the Zod versus Superman dilemma. It's what do you do? So, Josh, you're rebooting this series for your daughter. You got your opening scene. Do you call her Supergirl? And then what are you hoping that she says?
I'm fine with Supergirl. The title I don't mind, and the only part of that trailer that I really liked was Callista Flockhart saying, "I'm a girl, and I am your boss, and I'm powerful, and I'm influential, and I'm smart, and I'm hot. And if you think that any of that is wrong, then maybe the problem's you." That's the only part that gave a positive message in this entire trailer. And if you're going to make the show about
that
message, fine. But everything that we've seen is completely contradictory.
So I will also give them credit for this. So I want to take a little shit off their pile, just a little. The costume. They went through the fashion show of the costumes, and they started off with a pretty slutty one, right? In my opinion,
yeah.
Right? It was pretty. They had the belly thing, and she didn't seem to like that. And then she came out with what resembles a traditional Supergirl outfit, where it has the dress. And it's got the cape, and it doesn't show a whole lot of skin, but she still has, her feminine shape to her. She's not turning into a man. She does still show her body, but it's in a tasteful way. And I think that sends the right message to young men too, who are going to watch this show, and boys who are going to watch this show, that this isn't someone that you should objectify. This is someone that should be treated like, a piece of meat. This is a person. So I'll give them a little credit for that. They at least attacked the costume in the right direction, because this could have just gone to sex sells, let's just do it and let that ride. So I give them props for that.
Yeah, I think that in that case, let me say this. I think by over-sexualizing any character on any show at this point, you're asking for trouble. People are smarter than they were 10, 20 years ago. It doesn't sex sells, but in a way that people don't care about as much anymore, because I think it's more important to be a strong person, a strong individual with your own thoughts and feelings and respectful of others than it is to sell sex anymore.
Brian, is this the Supergirl that's in the comics?
I mean, it's very difficult to tell from just the 6 minutes I saw, but no.
Brian, did you recently get elected to public office? Like you're like shedding.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna do something this weekend, and it'll be fun, and it'll be
yeah, man. You've deflected this question 3 times.
Yeah, seriously, bro. What's going on?
Okay, you want a straight answer?
Let me ask you. So let me ask you the real question. Did you even read Supergirl?
No,
am I asking you a question for something you're not qualified for?
I've actually read some Supergirl comics, and she is actually portrayed in the comic books as older and smarter than Clark. Sometimes she is a teen, like in her teens, actually, when Krypton gets destroyed, and she goes through this like wormhole thing, and that's why she gets on Earth later than Clark, and looks like a super teenage girl, but she's technically has more experience and knows a lot more about Krypton than Clark does, and she sometimes shows Clark up and schools him on how things should get done. Sometimes she's a much stronger character in the comic book. Yeah, she's doing the whole struggling to fit into high school life and trying to be Earthling type of thing, and Clark does the same thing, and Superman has the same woes about hiding their identity and how to do that. She's not neurotic, she's not insecure, she's not in it for the attention.
And in the show, she's not hiding; she's telling everybody.
I mean, that we know of.
Well, I mean, in the trailer, they show her telling everyone.
Yeah, I mean, again, she doesn't really do that in the comic book. She's Superman, just younger and more.
So what I'm gathering from you is that this is not canon. This is a Hollywood CBS TV stripped down version of Supergirl, and we're not getting the same character that if you are a fan of comic books that you would have on
and
the
it's
page.
sad because I want, and this is my own bias, but I want, you know, every female superhero, basically I want to be Hermione Granger. You know what I mean? Like I want that strong person. I want that strong person for my daughter to see on screen.
And this is, man, this comes back to me again. And I'm going to tie this into two things. And so I'm going back to shitting on DC again. We're not going to see any of this tied into any of the movie series that are coming out.
Well, just because
it's DC and they don't want to tie their TV and movie universe together, which would be really. Listen, this is the one time you should throw out what's on TV from DC. You know, that and Gotham. I'm gonna meet somebody from Fox who worked on Gotham one day, and I'd be like, "Could you fucking shut up? I worked real hard. I did my best. Just let it go." This is one of those things where I'm just hoping that this is either short-lived or enough people call in, write in, tweet, whatever they got to do, and they say, CBS, I understand that you're funny. I understand that you get nerd humor. You have the Big Bang Theory, and you have a couple of characters that are on there that are strong female characters who are
all
nerdy,
who
understand this world. All three of them who are nerdy and who understand this world, and you know you've hit it with those fans. I don't think I can find a single nerd who's like, yeah, Big Bang Theory, fuck that show. Like, screw that, I don't watch that. Yes, and you identify with everybody. Why can't you take some of that same logic and apply it towards, I don't know, a nerdy superhero show? Perhaps, maybe. Why is that such a far-fetched idea? And maybe I'm an idealist, and I'm thinking that Hollywood should work the way that it should work. And at the end of the day, it's all about people who are maybe just a little out of touch with what's happening, or people that fully don't get the idea, or the people who are running the show started off with the best intentions, and they started off with everything that we just talked about that we want to see, and some networks whose buddy hit him down and took away.
So
their
let's
power.
make it right then, and let's hope that episode 1, she has been hiding her superpower for so long that she's lost touch with it a bit, and she's taken on the full gamut of the human experience. And this transformation into Supergirl is what leads her to become everything that she was always supposed to be. Let's hope that there's that.
I hope so.
I won't even try to top that. That's the best thing I could possibly say. So that's our hope. And in the meantime, I'd love to get anybody, and I don't mean just women, anyone who listened to the show who has an opinion about the state that we just talked about and how females are being portrayed. I'd love to open up this dialogue, because I think when we were talking about our website and we're talking about that kind of nerd, we don't mean males, we don't mean white, we don't mean straight, we mean anybody can be a kind of nerd. And we talked about this culture being very open. And I know that our website and us right here on the show would welcome anyone who has opinion that's contradictory or opinion that we don't have the eyes to see through. I want to see someone else's perspective on these kind of issues. So I really want you to go talk to us on Twitter at That Kind of Nerd. I want you to email us at podcast@thatkindofnerd.com. Go to our website where the episode is and leave us a comment. If you're our personal friends, shoot us a text. Give us an email. We've got no problem answering them and talking about them. And I hope that we've, as I said, I hope we kind of elevated the conversation a little bit at the end to kind of talk about things that we think are important in the culture. And I want people to call, because I want to start to play some of these calls on the air, because we've got a couple. Our number is 484-373-4119. Guys, is there any recap or anything that you want to touch upon from our conversation day that you think our viewers need to put back into their head after this conversation?
I think we need to revisit Harry Shearer and just to say, good work, sir. Just an amazing job.
Absolutely.
Voicing these characters that have absolutely impacted so many lives. I will always remember, I think for me, it's Skinner is my favorite Harry Shearer character. And I don't think the Simpsons could ever be the same without Harry Shearer. Just good work, sir.
And I mean, for me, yeah, I've never watched The Simpsons, so really watch Doctor Who if you haven't seen it and you're a little afraid about a sci-fi show. It's not just that; it's a fantastic character-driven show. And also, what people should take away from this is that I am single and looking. Form an orderly line, ladies.
Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. All right, and my takeaway from this is, again, I want that dialogue with our fans on any of the topics that we cover, or topics you don't think we're covering. I would want to hear your perspective on them. I think everyone should take the 5 minutes out of your life, go to thatkindofnerd.com, go read Josh's Doctor Who for Beginners article. It's so good, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. It's such a good article, and if you're not watching Doctor Who, start. I want to thank every listener for hanging along with us during this conversation. I really appreciate it. And if you're also interested in maybe being a guest or sharing your opinion on this show, shoot us an email, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. So thank you guys very much. Thank you for listening to the That Kind of Nerd podcast. We want to thank everyone for their support, and it means so much to us that you'll listen to our show. But we still need some help. So on our website, thatkindofnerd.com, we have a link to a GoFundMe campaign that will help us buy more equipment and necessary software to make the podcast. Whether you donate $100 or $1, we appreciate everything that you do, and we give you a shout out on the website and at the beginning of the podcast. So go to thatkindofnerd.com, look for our link for our GoFundMe, and help this show keep going. Oh yeah, I am saved. Oh yeah.
You're time locked.